Hello, hello. I surprised you. We've got you on a Saturday. Do you know what? I did think Saturday, tea time. Do Doctor Who fans have any affinity with that kind of time slot? So, hello. Instead of watching real Doctor Who as you would have in the timey-wimey past, you can actually listen to me and Rachel, Queen of the Walk. She's on in a second. So, just to say, welcome one and all. We're going to do an extra special on the War Games. We've had a damn good think about it. You've seen how many streams about it. We're not saying we are original in that way, but we've had a damn good think, analysis, and reflection. And we are going to give our final thoughts on the War Games editing, colorization, and enhancement, they're called it as well. There's some interesting words to look at. So the War Games in colour, final Troughton story. It was on for 2 months, April to June 1969. 250 minutes have been condensed to 90. So yes, what is RTD and what are the BBC up to? Is this what we wanted? Is this what we demanded as fans? Have we been yearning for this? I mean, before you hit your head on the pillow, do you go, do you know what? I really want War Games in colour, enhanced and edited. Is that what you've been saying? Because I'm wondering why this has happened, and I'm down to hear what Rachel says. Now, we know there's loads of arguments. You don't have to watch it. The original's still there. We'll get into that one. And there's a lot of other arguments. Anyway, I'm not on my own tonight, and it's great to welcome her back. She'll be on with me on Sunday as well. But of course, Queen of the Walk, here she is. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm back. Not
You're
stuck in
back.
traffic today.
Well, of course, before we get going, and she's been holding her opinions. And so your channel, of course, go and give us the first shout out.
It's at chat_about it. Have I got that right? I don't even know now. So chat don't shout, or chat about it, don't shout about it. So yeah, it is a variety channel. We talk about woke topics, and of course we cover Doctor Who on a Sundays. If you just want to join for the Doctor Who, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to stay for everything.
Well, we're going to reward everybody for turning up at Saturday tea time, which is the Doctor Who slot for anybody in the world. Well, I say in the world, BBC. Let's just talk about this then. This is my hit list. If you think about, as a Doctor Who fan, and I'll make it bigger so everybody can see. Here we go. You can pick. I mean, we can pick at this, and so can the thread, who I'll say hello to in a minute. So our general hit list of the War Games in colour. The argument is modern audiences can't focus and concentrate for too long. So it has to be short. It's butchery as an argument. It's cannon busting. It disrespects the writers. It introduces new elements that weren't in the original. It's the wrong choice of story. You could have done others. So we're going to get right into the reads of that, everybody in the thread, and Rachel. But do you know what? I'm going to start with this, Rachel, because you know this argument about, is it butchery or not? Why did it need to go down to 90 minutes? I want to show you all this, everybody. So, right. RTD and the BBC think the War Games has to come down to 90 minutes. Now, just read this out, Rachel, and show you what's on in the cinema now. Wicked, 160 minutes.
Yeah.
Elf, 97. Lord of the Rings, 134. Look at Gremlins. Paddington in Peru is another 16 minutes long. You go down that list. Even Sonic the Hedgehog is an extra 20 minutes. So I'm looking at the content. I'm thinking of the types of clientele I think can only cope with 90 minutes of War Games. Rachel, when you see that, why have they gone for such a short version?
Well, that's a really good question. I think it's because it's the quickest way for them to actually get it done. I just think because, I mean, the War Games, it's 10 episodes long. It's a very long story. And the cleanup of it would actually take quite a long time to do.
Yeah.
So I think this is just the quickest way that they can get it done.
So it leads us very quickly, and I'll flash that up for people in the thread in a moment, and I will visit you all. But Rachel, the point you've just said is, well, therefore, why didn't they do the Mind Robber? Why didn't they do Tomb of the Cybermen? Why didn't they do the Crotons, for God's sake? Why pick the longest one for Troughton?
It doesn't make sense to me, not unless they're going on about that regeneration thing I haven't read the full details. I will be honest, because I was waiting to come on the channel and I wanted to be surprised and like react to it in real time. So yeah.
Well, we'll get into the reads of it, but I'm throwing the questions out there as David Mullen, Anthony Parkinson, Lee Smith, Rick Storm. They're all there. Michael Q, SG. Good to see you.
See, I find. Oh, hello, chat. Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Sorry to
I'll
cut
get
you
to you.
off.
Go on, Rachel. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at that comment from David Mullen, and the modern audiences can't focus on like 10 episodes of the War Games. You tell that to my 6-year-old niece, who I took to see a 2-hour and 40-minute show last weekend, which is why I never made it onto the Sunday show. She sat through Mary Poppins. She loves it. She will sit down and she will focus on it. And Mary Poppins is not an easy story to focus on, especially the stage version of it. It's much more like the books. So, I think that's a load of rubbish.
Well, and this is it. Let's go up again because RTD, the god of Doctor Who, and the BBC think that Doctor Who fans or casual viewers can only cope with 90 minutes of the War Games. And remember, in the cinema now are those movies. And I think if we were being fair, Paddington and Peru, I mean, what age group is that, for God's sake? Polar Express, Home Alone, that's the youngsters, isn't it? I mean, look at them, and they're all longer. And even if you were fair and went to something like the average, that seems to be about 106, we could have had an extra 16 minutes of War Games. We could have had another bulk of an episode without it being taken off. And so I really will challenge on that one why they needed to go that far into just taking a whole. So that's a whole other episode we've lost.
Yeah.
Now, you see, on your channel, Rachel, recently you did review the War Games. Now, so therefore you're hot to trot. You're quite sharp on it. You saw it as an actress. You saw it as a Doctor Who fan. When you looked at those 10 episodes, and now you've heard it's down to 90 minutes. What do you think they can take out that would maintain its integrity?
Oh my gosh. So it would be like, so one of the things that I passed comment on was that they were obviously, being the War Games, they're going into enemy territories, they're being captured all the time. So there was a constant repeat in those 10 episodes of the same sort of scenario.
Yeah.
So I would have thought, in order to consolidate it down, and it's just going back to what I actually said on my in-depth reviews on it, was that if they were to remove something like that, something that doesn't necessarily impact the plot particularly all that much, with them getting captured and all of that, not the important captures, but just the repetitive ones, then you can actually bring it down to 8 episodes, I would have thought. But 90 minutes?
And why is it so arbitrary? Why not 99? Why not 102? Why not actually, Rachel, believe it or not? Because it almost sounds like an artificial limit, whether it's our budget for colorization, you know what I mean? Whether they've gone, well, it just has to be 90. But you think, well, first of all, watch it again. Benjamin Cook, watch it again, make your notes, and then go, oh my God, there's no way I can get that down to 90. I think I can maybe get away with 115 or whatever you do.
But even 115 would be a difficult push, wouldn't it?
Lee Smith, I've just flashed that up, but said, I bet they delete a lot from episode 2.
Yeah.
That's where I think you're saying they're not the important necessarily.
I reckon, yeah, possibly episode 2. I also but would they though? Because there's that bit where the Doctor, is it that episode? My brain's gone a bit out of sync now. But there's that bit where the Doctor he's basically being court-martialed, isn't he? So, and I think it's then I've got it out of order. I don't know.
It's all right. We're helping each other. Stephen Braddock. Stephen Braddock, good to see you. I think they've chosen this story because they can't wait to get hold of the Regeneration. The actual War Games content is going to be practically missing, sadly. I've seen lots of people say, look, out of the 10 episodes, they need to preserve definitely 8, 9, 10 almost, because that's the key to this. And of course, they've promised a they've promised a regeneration into John Pertwee. I know people have said, "Oh, could it be the fugitive Doctor and all the rest of it?" But you know that
how would they do that? Because John Pertwee didn't film. They didn't film into John Pertwee, did they?
no, he just appeared in the TARDIS, falling out of the TARDIS into some kind of, moorland in Spearhead. But you see, this is where the content is problematic, and that's why I've got my hit list. But in the feedback and the kind of the spiel about it, if you take a look at this, I mean, we seem to be hitting on the butchery one first, and Thread, stick with us. We'll mention the regeneration, we'll mention everything, don't worry. But if you take a look at what's written here, on the butchery front, it says a 90-minute feature-length experience. Now, you've just mentioned your niece, who is a lot younger, I think, than the target audience for Doctor Who.
Absolutely, yes.
And she coped with it. Let's repeat it again. How long?
2-hour, 40-minute show of Mary Poppins, and it is the Mary Poppins that is more like the books rather than the Disney version. So you've got Miss Andrew, you've got the toys put in Jane and Michael on trial. So some really quite scary stuff for a child, but she was sat there mesmerized through the entire thing.
Yeah, and as Lee Smith says here, they thought the show would end after the War Games, true. And David Mullen joining in, of course, you won't get a sense of the sheer scale of the... This is what worries me, David Mullen and Rachel, because, I mean, are we going to see just a little bit of the Romans, a little bit of the... I mean, you'll see a bit more of I'm going to say the Second World War. You know, Second World War, First World War? Do you know, it's gone out my blooming head. But you know what I mean? The more contemporary... I don't know. I sometimes wonder whether they're just going to quickly, fleetly show was.
I'm going to be so angry if they cut Harper, because I really like Rudolph Walker. I'm going to be so mad if they cut him altogether.
Well, so, but you see, I want to challenge some things. I will be positive when I can be, but when it says in that third line there, a new 90-minute feature-length experience, it has to be artificial. It can't have respected when watching it again and making notes. And feature length, I'm sorry, but go to the cinema. Feature length is way past 90 minutes.
It is. It's almost like they land in the War Games, they infiltrate the zone, and they basically just introduce the warlord and the chief and all of that, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, and that's it. You know, you go into the trial of the Second Doctor and into the regeneration.
Why can I ask you? You've just quoted the factor from your niece, who's a lot younger than the target audience for Doctor Who, and I've just shown examples of what's in the recent cinema now regarding length of feature length cinema. Why do you think RTD has this obsession that it has to be 90 minutes as an omnibus? And for a story, he tends to show you a 45-minute story. Does he have it completely wrong about what a modern audience wants? Because they say this is for a modern audience and casual viewers. It's not for Doctor Who fans.
But people aren't stupid. He's treating them like they're stupid, if that's the case.
To me, it sounds like you're infantilizing an audience that they can't cope. And
I think they can cope.
You see, you have kind of familial knowledge of a younger person in this world who can cope with it.
Yes.
Yeah. I, as a teacher, know that the older ones, the teenagers, clearly would find it. And so who? I mean, is Doctor Who now being pitching below Paddington in Peru? I mean, where are we pitching this?
Well, that would be almost like Babies, wouldn't it?
Well, Space Babies, hello.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a 2-year-old episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
What they the thing is, that's almost impossible with the War Games, because the War Games is very much up there with, you know, the amount of intelligence, because you've got to think about it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they're dumbing down the War Games.
Oh well, and again, and I'll just flash up as we go, because I've tried to listen to what I think and a lot of people think, and so that is my general hit list of what we think about the War Games in color, enhanced, and edited, and we're going to pick our way through them, Fred. So, and then we're hitting on the top one at the moment. Modern audiences can't focus, can't concentrate.
They definitely can focus. I think it's just, like I said earlier, I think they're just saving money. It's a time thing. They're being lazy.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely got to be a budget, and that's the only way I could lose my argument by thinking, well, if the budget's
Must
90
be.
minutes, but then, Rachel, pick a different one.
Yeah, there's plenty to pick.
Yeah, and like I
There's
said, I've
plenty
listed,
to
if you're
pick.
going to go do a Troughton, I mean, Seeds of Death is 6, so if I'm going to stick with the 90, you've got the Mind Robber, there's nothing wrong with the Crota, it was good enough for the 5 Faces.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Tomb of the Cybermen. And I'm sorry, let's not go into saying, oh, there's a problematic character. Get over it and just show it. You're happy to make money out of it.
I don't find him that problematic.
No.
In fact,
David
I quite like it.
David Mullen says about the cliffhangers are all gone. That's the thing
They've
about
got
the
some good
omnibus, though, isn't
cliffhangers
it?
in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get an omnibus, you're going to lose the cliffhangers. That's always the downside in a way. As you know, David, I argue for episodic Doctor Who. Stephen Braddock, I sat and watched the War Games the first time it was on. Oh God, did you? Most of it went over my head, but on subsequent watches, I think it's 10 episodes go fat. Yeah, and actually, Simon Anthony has said he watched it all in one go and loved it. I
would say I could probably watch it all in one go as well. If obviously, if I had time. Obviously, I work as well, so I don't have time to do that. But if I were to do that, I probably could. But I do find by episode 8, the pacing of it does actually get on me a little bit by that point, but not to the point where I'm saying, ugh, they should make a shorter version of it. I don't actually think they should make a shorter version of it, to be honest. Whilst it could work at 8 episodes very easily, I don't think they should do that.
You see, this is the problem because RTD, who's now the god of Doctor Who, he thinks, is saying why he's done stuff. And so if I just put his quotation up here and you think, God, we have to deal with what he thinks of Doctor Who. So from the day I arrived, so this was his plan to colorize old stories and bring them back to life. And on Doctor Who Day, this is so great. And of course, he says to us lot, if we're complaining, last line there, he says, the story in its original form will stay on BBC iPlayer, so everybody wins. Excuse me. If you weren't enhancing it and adding new scenes, if you weren't adding the regeneration, if you weren't probably changing canon, if you weren't doing an awful lot of changes, then maybe we could let it shoot through. The trouble is, it's not Rachel, oh, there's a black and white Doctor Who, let's enhance it and add colour. No, they're changing a lot. You know that every edit changes something.
They do, yeah. Yeah. It takes away, and like you're editing also the cliffhangers, takes away from the cliffhangers as well, and it takes away from the suspense of it. Be interesting to see how they actually go ahead and do it. Yeah, I tend to not watch the colorized versions, just because I prefer the black and white. That's just me.
You see, we've all got skin in the game. The Daleks in colour, which was a 7-episode story, as you know, and the first episode seemed almost intact. I was watching it going, oh, this is all right. And then they started to really, and I will say the verb butcher, they did start to butcher that whole adventure in the middle and squash it all together and basically take away the tension, take away the jeopardy, and it became a disco number. And I thought, what modern audiences want... No, I mean, is this a safe space then? Don't worry, the Daleks will not get them, so we're going to do some disco number and flashing lights. And then we've got a 10-episode story, and you're going, look, why? You see, this is it, and we will come to the regeneration, everybody, but do you think they're going for all the long ones, like Daleks Master Plan next, which I know isn't intact, but they can do something with it? That pick a 12-episoder, pick a 10-episoder, pick a 7-episoder, and we'll attack those first, rather than go, do you know what? We can really beautify old Doctor Who and keep it intact, but add colour.
Yeah, I don't mind if they. I wouldn't mind if they kept it intact and added the colour. But when they take it out.
Well, I mean, what do you think, Thread? I've even said, what about William Hartnell, the 10th Planet? The 10th Planet is 4 episodes. It's iconic. Rachel, they're obsessed with maybe we've got to do a regeneration one, the War Games. Well, you could have done the 10th Planet, tarted up the end a little bit, given the William Hartnell last story colorization, the Cybermen, and And that would have been a lovely way to kind of launch it, and no editing at all.
No, because it's not very long, is it? It's not. It's
No,
4.
4 episodes. That's
Yeah,
it.
so it's not that long. One of them's animated, isn't it? I think, or
Yes.
something like that. But
Yeah.
that's all right. You can colorize an animation as
Well, they can
well.
do loads of stuff now. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather the money kind of went on that kind of really sorting that out. Okay, then. And my last little option, if it's a Hartnell one, is oh no, there was 2 Aztecs, 4 episode story. Can you imagine that in color?
That would
Four
be great
episodes.
in color. Aztecs, is my favorite Hartnell story. So I that would be very good in color. And they don't have to cut anything out.
No.
But then they would, because they've done that with, or what did they do it with? When they did that Memories of the TARDIS thing, they did
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
there, didn't they? And they
Yeah.
didn't need to do it.
And my other option is in from this first season, the Keys of Marinus, because you've got a lovely quest.
Oh, the
It's
Keys of
6
Marinus is good.
Yeah, it's 6 episodes.
Yeah.
I dare say if there's a little bit they can tart up, I think you could squeeze that maybe slightly, although I'm not encouraging vandalism.
No.
So I've thought about this. I won't just criticize.
I
Why
d
war games are not seeds of death or mind robber? We're thinking on the same page, Raymond. I mean, why? And of course, I suppose we could say it quickly now. Is it because they want to show regeneration? Because Stephen Moffat liked this, didn't he, Rachel? Night of the Doctor, I'll show you the McGann regeneration. I'll tidy up the regeneration from Chris Eccleston and Shaw. They seem to be tidying up. And I'll be honest, as a fan, I thought, oh, that's nice. I kind of like that.
It is nice, but they can't. I always feel like, sorry, I just sidetrack here. I always feel like Paul McGann gets really snubbed when it comes to Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he should have been the War Doctor. Sorry, I know people like John Hurt, but I think he should have come in and done the War Doctor, and he said he would have done it. Anyway, back to business.
Yeah, and as we're going through, Solid as Scully, I mean, everybody's alive. People are saying, what about colorizing the Red Planet? I know. They were my little personal favorites. But great to see you've caught us live for the first time. So welcome. And please join in with your opinions, because I don't think this is going. Sorry, you can say?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, so just going back to what you've actually got on the screen in the corner here. So he's saying that they're going to keep the original form on BBC iPlayer so everyone wins. But yet he was quite happy, or the BBC, I should say, I won't say it was Russell T Davies, are quite happy to remove a couple of Tom Baker stories from the iPlayer.
Well,
recently,
for whatever reason we don't know yet.
Yeah. So what's
being,
to say that won't happen with the war games in the future?
Yeah, and there's so many thinking and keep threads. I'll try and keep up. It's my job, isn't it? Lee, problem being, good to see you. And I suppose this is an interesting theory, because people said, is it going to be the Fugitive Doctor? How dare they? Is it going to be Pertwee Regeneration? But of course, it might make sense if the season 7 Blu-ray collection is released after this, so that we as little fans can go, oh, I can see the whole join up now. It's in the end, what they're trying to do is say it's all about merchandise. It's not actually about anything else.
Money,
which is why I did say in my thumbnail, what is RTD and the BBC up to? And I suppose the answer should always be they want to make money. and BBC Studios said the top show for making money for them is Doctor Who.
And yes, because everyone's absolutely, crazy about it. So why not? Take advantage of it. It's that Harry Potter, isn't it? Harry Potter is sort of that big explosion in movie genre. So and Doctor Who is essentially the same. So people are going to make money from it.
And
Why
Simon
not?
Anthony's he's agreeing the go-ahead for doing anything with Doctor Who will be based on what the money men say is the most popular, irrespective of anything else. Production has to make the best with what they are given.
Here's the thing, though, the war games, in the terms of viewership, wasn't that popular. So that's interesting.
Yeah. No, it wasn't, was it?
No.
But the thing is, are we desperate as fans? Or right, okay, I know there's fans, and then there's where they call them modern audience casual viewers. So Rachel, a casual viewer who's not really into the minutiae of Doctor Who, needs to see, if they see war games and sees a regeneration at the end, which they're adding, and then that'll make them maybe want to buy season 7. This is a casual viewer. Really?
So you're thinking it's a hook,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what
Thing is, I
problem
don't know.
being.
I don't know if that would hook me in.
A casual. I'm saying
Yeah.
it again because a casual viewer will want to buy the Blu-ray of season 7 because they saw this on TV on the 23rd of December.
That's
That's
really interesting.
it's
It's that
interesting.
I'm a casual viewer of Star Wars. Like, I don't really like Star Wars, but I have watched a lot of them. So, but nothing hooks me in to go and buy the stuff. Sorry if you like
Yeah,
Star Wars, everyone, but that's just me.
and that, and that's what I mean. A casual viewer, and I have to say, I know Doctor Who fans in the thread. We are the ones who invest in the merchandise. We are the ones who actually have spent a bomb on loving Doctor Who. We want some, and actually, you mentioned the 2 shows that have come off iPlayer, Rachel, but we're all grateful that we bought the DVDs because this is it. Sometimes you have to buy to protect what you've got.
Yeah.
Aren't we all glad we've got An Unearthly Child? And whatever the Corbins get up to, we've got our copy. That sort of thing. So why would they have to change the war games for a casual viewer who I don't think buys this stuff? They'll watch it, maybe.
Oh, they'll watch it for sure. For sure. Oh, there's nothing else. Oh, I'll just watch that. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, that was nice. And they'd move on.
Yeah. As Stybox, I would say Sticks. Sorry, Sticks Boy 73. A casual viewer watches because it's on TV and then turns the channel. That's it.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
go,
it.
oh, do you know, I've got to go on Amazon now and I must buy because I think, no, that's me and Lee, isn't it? That's, we will do
Yeah.
it, even though we've already got it. Yeah, I think it's absolutely crazy. Thank you, Thread, for just making this so busy that I can't keep up. I've got a hit list and everything here, but I will try my best to serve you as well as I can. But Solly does. I don't see RTD doing the Fugitive Doctor, if only because he's more about doing something nice because aren't I nice, as opposed to doing it to trying to pay attention to canon.
But is it nice, though?
He hasn't tried to be nice. I mean, Dot and Bubble was all about getting a rise out of us.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't being polite to us. You're all racist. Now on this, on the first PR bit here, it says for the first time, these original episodes have been meticulously colorized and enhanced with updated visual effects. Now, which camp are you in, Rachel? I'll ask you in a minute, and the thread, because you can buy your Blu-rays and they add little bits like Dave the Doctors and all the rest of it. The Horror Fan Rock, the Rutan. How far is this acceptable to go? Because I have said once they've started doing this, they now have carte blanche to do it on scale. So we've got enhanced updated visual effects, and then they talk about updated sound, updated new score. Here we go again. Marquez, I've seen him in an online spat saying, excuse me, I am told what to do. If they ask for a disco number, that's what I do. It's not me. So he's actually saying I'm directed to do the music a certain way. So, okay.
Yeah.
So updated sound and a new score. You see, enhanced is lovely. Black and white enhanced is brilliant. Adding color, some people like it, some people don't. Are you one of those who was happy with updated visual effects?
No, I am firmly sitting in the camp of leaving the effects alone. I think right, people can buy into it and they can buy the Blu-ray if that's really what they want to do, and knock yourself out, go and do it. But I made a mistake of watching my favorite Doctor Who classic Doctor Who episode all time, Enlightenment, with the enhanced effects, and I made a mistake. I really shouldn't have done that. I regretted it because it didn't live up to my expectations and I was disappointed. So in order to avoid disappointment, I don't go down that route for me personally. So I sit firmly in the camp of just leave it alone. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and as Lee says here, because and this is when I love having Rachel. Well, there's lots of reasons, of course, but Rachel can be handy here because just like rescoring old Who, it's a bit like as an actor, that stuff, or as a director, things are left on the cutting room floor, and sometimes for a reason. And you can get DVDs and they put them back in. But it's changing things. The director's cut is the cut. The actor might be unhappy or not. The actor might be very happy that some stuff has been left on the cutting room floor. In this case, as Lee is saying, with his musical background, if I were asked, like Mark Ayres, to rescore Classic Who with a disco number, I would refuse to do it. And this is where it gets interesting. And I don't want to do a hit on Mark Ayres because I've got no reason to dislike him, of course, with his past in Doctor Who. But if you were asked as an actor, I'll say it in a slightly different way, to redub some other actor's work, do you think that's unethical?
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a really tough question. Yes, because you feel like you're sort of duping all over it, and you don't really want to do that. You feel like you're treading on the toes of the other actor. And do you know, funny enough, actually, I went and saw Paddington, the recent one,
That really long movie, the one
that
that's much
really long movie
longer,
that
than
no one
Doctor Who.
focused on, that one, which is actually very good. I highly recommend it. But they had replaced Mrs. Brown with Emily Mortimer, and so she was a new one. And she was asked about taking over the role, and she said she sort of had a bit of imposter syndrome, and she didn't feel like that, she shouldn't have been doing it. And you know what? She's absolutely right. And she said, so what she did was she did a similar portrayal, but she made it her own rather than doing exactly the same. So that way she could feel better about it. But I understand. Yeah, I would feel like I would get something like imposter syndrome. I would feel like I would be making a mockery of someone else's work. And nothing's worse, I think, for an actor to come into a project where someone has actually been fired from doing something, and they have to come in and then take over and re-record all of those scenes, and you feel bad. You feel really bad.
It's happened in Hollywood with Kevin Spacey as an example.
Yeah.
And as we know, just dealing with facts, Kevin Spacey is still a free man, and yet he's been taken out of movies. They've recast. They've exercised him, and whoa, and
Johnny Depp is a good example.
Yeah, and so this is a bit of a problem now. The thread are going to lead me in one direction. It's how they're now to trigger me. But while I've got that on screen, the regeneration. I mean, I've seen Stephen Braddock saying, I'm most worried they're going to do a bi-generation to Troughton's Doctor, as RTD has already said the bi-generation also happened to all the Doctors. Let's just hope, Stephen Braddock,
they don't.
That the next face you see is Pertree's. But the trouble is, you see, you see, will we all kind of breathe a sigh of relief if it's Pertree that you see in a second after this shot, and not the fugitive Doctor that some people fear? But Rachel, what I want to contest is this: why is RTD imposing his Tinkerbell regeneration dust all over the whole of Doctor Who? This is where I find it disrespectful. Every regeneration used to look different and had its own vibe. I've said examples that will get, you're triggering me, Thread. I'm going to trigger you back. Can you imagine if Legopolis had this Tinkerbell regeneration effect? Can you imagine when John Pertwee comes back from the Planet of the Spiders, that it's the Tinkerbell regeneration effect? No. And I'm not stupid. I know they've tried to re-enhance the William Hartnell one with Capaldi when it was Twice Upon Time. We saw it then, didn't we? So again, Rachel, RTD cannot just bring back Doctor Who now and hopefully do a damn good job. Hello, jury out. What he's doing is he wants to make the old Doctor Who they had nothing to do with, and he wants to impose his version of regeneration, his version of Sutekh, his version. And I do find that vandalism. It's just too much. Why do you have to go over other people's work?
They don't need to. And you mentioned Twice Upon a Time. Now, I actually think they just about got away with it with Twice Upon a Time because they made it like a separate sort of story, I guess you could say. And eventually he does actually return to his TARDIS, in a TARDIS that miraculously appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's by the by. And then he goes in, and he goes exactly into the position that William Hartnell would have been. Oh, Patrick Troughton did the regeneration. What am I talking about? But what Patrick Troughton would have been in, and they switched back to the actual black and white regeneration. So he just about got away with it. But if they're going in with the fairy dust and doing all of this bi-generation nonsense, this is not going to go down well.
And look, I think it looked all right in 2005. I was a bit over the blasting of this Tinkerbell dust destroying TARDISes willy-nilly. I mean, what a stupid regeneration process that every time you regenerate, you break the room, you break all your machinery. I mean, surely the Time Lords have worked this out now, that basically you need to kind of keep it in a bit more. This is like anger management gone wrong. It's like, wow, honestly, it's like a teenage Paddy in a bedroom.
It is the Eccleston regeneration, the kaboom. He didn't blow up the TARDIS, but it was big enough to have an impact on people who had never seen it before.
Well, and this is it. I mean, and we've the Chris Eccleston one was a big one, but I think he get away with it. As a fan, you went, oh, it's a new way. I quite like the Colin Baker one, as in I say the Davison into Colin Baker when that was the latest gadget they had, and they had this kind of strange groove effect. The Logopoulos one worked with this idea of the Watcher. We all know which regenerations we like, but they're all different. Some love the Third Doctor one, where basically Shoji has to do a little bit of magic. We're going to give it a nudge. But why do we have to impose this on? And actually, look, let's get down to it. You read a script, Rachel, and you'll put all your effort into the script, thinking, I think this is what the character needs to do, and you'll talk to the director about it. But what's happened here? 69 to 2024, so many years later, they've decided to add a scene that the original people decided not to do. Now, whether that's because they hadn't necessarily got John Pertwee in place is by the by. Have you been having nightmares going, I didn't see Troughton turn into Pertwee? I need to see the glue.
Well, here's the thing. The answer is no. It doesn't actually affect me. I mean, at the ending of the War Games, the face twisting, the face contorting, you know what's going to happen. You don't see it. You don't need to have imaginations. You don't always need to see it.
And while we're talking about the gold dust and the regeneration and all the rest of it, I think it's past its prime. It's nearly 20 years since we saw Eccleston regenerate, and I'm sick to death of it. I'm bored by it. And, RTD is so bothered about the casual viewer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Doctor Who fan, and I'm bored rigid with Regeneration. In fact, we've had the hand in the jar. We've had the pickled tenant.
Yeah.
We've had the anger management, the mad teenager.
They just throw it off as a casual thing now, don't they, this regeneration? I think the only regeneration that I've actually found remotely interesting of all my scenes here is probably Jodie's. Like, I mean, I don't see her as the Doctor, but like it was a little bit different. Not much different. She didn't blow everything up, but it was a little bit different. And I was like, okay, good. Maybe they're going to change it altogether. Needless to say, they butchered it with the split into two. It's just ridiculous.
You see, but you see, while we're on the War Games, and I haven't forgotten the thread, don't worry, we're on the War Games, add in the regeneration scene that we've gone for 50 years without seeing, and we've all managed to sleep. Does it really help to see it suddenly? Do we have to have this? It's like a purist's thought. I know with my B&M collection and that, you think, I need to get that to complete the collection. I know what we're like if you're collectors, but oh my God, I thought this was for casual viewers. You see, which way are we going here? Casual viewers or the fan nerd? To have a complete set of regenerations that we can all cook, kind of sit there going, oh, look at that. But I don't want them all looking the same. The other thing, Rachel, as an actress, is every regeneration up to a point, I think he's missing the point, RTD, to make it such a visual thing. It was more of a, Remember the John Pertwee doctor in Planet of the Spiders? It was a moral decision he had to make. He had to go back and face the fact that he'd been a kleptomaniac and nicked the crystal. Hello, it's your fault, mate. And it was all.
Hey,
It was
you're
all.
the problem.
Yeah, it was all about atonement. It was quite religious, really. It was
Yeah.
one person had to go back and basically face the consequences of his decision. It wasn't about whether he had Tinkerbell dust or his hand started to shake. It was all about in there. Logopolis, well, Tom Baker's last season was all funereal, wasn't it? I mean, it had that vibe. I don't like this kind of let's make it visually bang and explosive. It's that RTD kind of everything has to be hyperbole, everything has to be spectacular, darling, instead of actually meaningful.
Well, and yeah, you're right. It's got to be meaningful. He tries to make it meaningful, particularly with David Tennant's first Regeneration. But the overuse of the actual regeneration energy and how it's done, it just sort of it well, I can't remember what the word is for it now. I can't think what the word is. It not devalues it, but it I don't know. It takes away from it basically.
Do we feel a week ago people were really concerned that this would be turning possibly into Joe Martin? I've seen in various press releases, the Radio Times press releases, it's trouting into Pertwee. So the fact that they've repeated that a few times maybe puts that to bed.
I've got a question about that. Troughton into Pertwee, so what are they going to do? Are they going to get Sean Pertwee to do it? Because I didn't think he was too happy about stepping into his dad's shoes from what I've heard from past interviews. So how would they do it?
They did. Remember that moment when, oh God, who McGann's Night of the Doctor, and they showed for a second the eyes of no, that was it. It was the John Hurt one. When John Hurt regenerated, you suddenly saw, I think, a glint of Chris Eccleston's eyes.
That's
and
correct.
You thought, yeah, that's the best they could do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Without getting him back for a reshoot.
That's right.
So maybe something like that. But then what's the point?
Possible.
Yeah, what's the point?
But that would be really tricky to do because you've got Patrick Troughton, who's just given probably one of his best performances as the Doctor in that one scene alone, and he's going like that. How are they going to do that if they're going to superimpose Pertwee's face over it with AI?
Well, this is
going to
it.
Look weird.
And I'm also aware, Thread, that there's a great YouTube. I enjoyed it. Somebody's actually done a version, and the talk is that Phil Collinson's got them in to do the footage. That on YouTube you can see the regeneration of Troughton. You can see it, and he sat in a chair, but it's Tinkerbell dust. And so you do get that idea that maybe they've got somebody in who actually showed it on the screen. A bit like, oh, can we all remember? And I hate it because people are creative and they're much better than me. But was it the Matt Smith era? That opening sequence with the clock, and maybe it was the screechy music. But you could see it on YouTube first, couldn't you, everybody? If somebody else had done it, and then they got to do it for the show, which was great. And maybe this is what's happened with Phil Collinson, has got the person who did the Troughton YouTube regeneration to do it for this. But as I say, I think we're losing something. And look, does it then devalue the twisting of the face and seeing some drawings of what Troughton might have been? You remember? I just don't agree with, you either devalue that by actually then showing the regeneration. I just don't know why it's necessary. And can I just say something else, Rachel? It's 250 minutes long in 10 episodes. Why are we adding new scenes when we're taking so many away?
The only scene that I know about is the regeneration.
They said they found footage. I'll get the printout.
Oh, wait, I did hear maybe this was, I can't really remember what I've read now. I've read so many things to do with the War Games when I was researching it for my YouTube video because I had to really go into details. But there was something about something that was deleted. So
yeah, But that's what I mean about the cutting room floor. I mean, there's an element where I know fans love it, but I thought we were all aiming for the casual viewer. Suddenly, the modern audience is a geek, and we need the cutting room floor stuff back in the show. But can I just say,
that is for the actual geeks of the show. It's
yeah.
for us.
Can I just say to the thread, am I right in my logic? If you're going to take a butcher 250 minutes into 90 minutes, which we've just argued is unnecessary because everything on at the cinema is longer and it's for kids younger. I mean, hello, there's your evidence. If you're going to I'm going to have to take another scene out, another scene. Oh my God, I'm editing like crazy. And then you decide to add some more in. How much are you actually changing the original? Take the content out, put some new stuff in, add a regeneration that wasn't there. It's suddenly a different show.
And also, you just made me think of something. There may be a reason why it was cut in the first place. It could be that maybe the sound quality wasn't good enough, or it really didn't add anything to the plot, or maybe it wasn't the actors' finest moments. Maybe they did some line flubs because they had limited time back then. So if they made a mistake, that was it. There could be a number of reasons why those scenes were cut. We quite often, it's the Lord of the Rings where they did the extended video versions where they showed you what was actually, this is it in its full length. This is what was cut. And you look at it and you're like, this, a lot of what they actually cut would have had no impact on the story whatsoever. So it makes you wonder what on earth they're adding back in. What on earth it is that they have found.
Well,
probably added nothing.
I'm going to read this Stephen Braddock comment out and ask you a question, Rachel, and see what the thread thinks as well. Because is RTD just being nice and it goes to Pertwee, or maybe they're going to have the fugitive doctor or even future doctors, or somebody said in the thread, Richard E. Grant. And then, so you see the second doctor's face, you then see some other doctors interposed, then you see Pertwee, because then that gives them the chance to do spin-offs and crazy stuff with that little gap, and Big Finish will be going, wee. I'd hate it, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Trouted. And remember, I was saying the other day, the three doctors in the script, in the three doctors, the 10th anniversary, they say, let's have a look at the second doctor. Let's have a look at the first doctor. The Time Lords are numbering them. So we can't have anybody in between. I know some people say, oh no, it's all the matrixy stuff, that the division's different and the fugitive doctor. And you think, oh, please, it's unnecessary.
Oh, I hope they don't go down that route, to be honest with you. It'd make it unbelievably complex if they made that canon.
Well, and this is why. Thanks for using the word, Rachel. No,
I didn't think about it.
Yeah, because that's what we're worried about. This is our hit list, just to remind everybody. We've touched a little bit. Modern audiences can't focus. But how old was your niece again? 6?
6. Yeah.
Yeah, your 6-year-old niece can cope with 2 hours plus. Yeah, there you go.
She was only 6 a couple of months ago, and she was coping with 2 hours when she was younger than that as well.
Oh my! RTD hasn't got kids, and I think he needs to kind of talk to some kids and realize.
She's incredibly intelligent. So,
but you see, this is what's so weird, isn't it? Because as you know, I mean, there's me, an English teacher. Hello, and children can't cope with stories unless it's a drag queen, 6'2", talking to them, and they have to have very short. I mean, I made the analogy last week, Rachel, that how come kids have all read Harry Potter all the way through, chapter by chapter by chapter? They didn't buy a book that was just the condensed version in one chapter. Why does RTD think everything has to be condensed when actually kids out there, are actually reading whole books with chapters in them? I don't understand his logic.
Well, I don't understand his logic. I'd read the entire Lord of the Rings series by the time I was 7, so I don't get his logic at all. Makes no sense to me. And there aren't any abridged versions of Harry Potter out there, as far as I'm aware. J.K. Rowling has never wanted them abridged. So children are not stupid.
No.
They're really not. I mean, I used to work in a preschool, used to run a preschool. Some of the smartest kids I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
are in those.
But you know what kids are like?
Yes.
They don't like the sense that you're trying to talk down to them. They don't like the sense that if a kid heard that the War Games had an original 10 episode run, but that this is like the baby version for them,
Yeah.
they'll go to the original.
Of course
That's
they
the
will.
challenge. And so I keep coming back to it. I don't understand who he's pitching at, apart from they can't afford more than 90 minutes, in which case, pick another Doctor Who story. I keep coming back to the same thing. I can't see my way around it. Randy here, nobody's forcing anyone to buy Big Finish stuff. Besides, who cares about canon? Nobody decides on canon. Just because RTD says it is doesn't mean it is. I know, Randy, we try and deny. I didn't see that. I mean, a lot of fans have said 2017 Beyond didn't happen. But they know it did. They know it did.
No, they know it did. But RTD has said that, canon can be whatever you want it to be in your
He
head.
did
So
say that.
we'll just, I'll just go with that now.
He did say that. And he also waffled. Didn't he say in San Diego, he said we could AI William Hartnell?
He did, yeah. And it's like, why would you want to do that when you've got David Bradley, who actually looks pretty much like him when he's got the get-up on?
Yeah. And hello, Simon Anthony, who's our contrarian on Sundays. And he's doing his job. He's doing his job, even though he's not here.
Definitely doing his job.
Not his desire to chop the story down. He has no option. And if it is budget, it's budget. But like I said, Simon, don't pick the War Games. Just don't pick that one. Do another one.
The question is, though, I'm going to play contrary now. Did he have the option to pick the War Games or not?
Well, who's in charge of this then? Who do you think?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Do you think is Lee right? Problem being saying, well, it's because season 7's coming up, so they're trying to tee it up.
It's possible,
and that's what I mean.
Who knows with Doctor Who? They know. The powers that be know that no matter what they do, people will buy it because it's Doctor Who.
Now
won't touch it, but
this PR, this is a problem because I've seen people in the thread, and I'm not ignoring you, thread. There's another bit here that people have had a problem with since Daleks in colour. It says 5 lines down with updated sound and a new score. Now, this is the other issue that people have a problem with. It's changing the music. Or, remember the Daleks? They added dialogue. They actually, because the Daleks don't say exterminate in the Daleks, but they added it.
Don't. They added dialogue. You see, I never watched it because I wasn't interested, but I think with the War Games, I am going to have to watch it because I'm like, how are they going to do this?
We see. Would you be happy? Here's an example, everybody, and I'm going to ask Rachel because go to her channel. She'll do her own little advert in a second as soon as I've shut up. But basically, she just recently, before she went on her hauls, she did a review of the War Games, and can you imagine
3 parts? I did.
Yeah, can you imagine, Rachel, if you watch the War Games now, would you be happy that when Patrick Troughton walks into the TARDIS, you hear the cloister bell? You see all these additional new scores and sound effects. It just makes everything so consistent across Doctor Who. But should you be doing that? Because they did the cloister bell in the Daleks as well.
Did they? You see, I don't know. I don't think you should. I just think you should leave alone. I am really in that camp of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think the money would be better well spent into cleaning up the audio and cleaning up the black and white footage, rather than colorizing it. I mean, it looks great in color. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
it looks
I agree.
fantastic in color. I really do think it does. But it would be better spent on cleaning up some of the more dodgy sounding episodes and things like that. I think it would, personally.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I'm a child of colour just about. I do remember black and white slightly. And I remember does everybody, I mean, I don't know what age you are. Rachel's not going to agree with this because she's too young. But I do remember my dad getting the first colour telly and he put it on the landing. He worked for Rediffusion and he suddenly brought it back. I don't know, it was a funny time. I was tiny. And I remember him putting this TV on the top of the stairs and connecting it. I don't know. Don't ask me why it's the top of the stairs. And I remember seeing lots of blue and yellow because it was blue and yellow in the early 70s. Everything seemed to be blue and yellow. And I just remember that amazing moment you saw colour. So I'm really into colour for Doctor Who black and white in the way that I think it. You see, I think that would energise the old Doctor Who's for a new audience, but I don't think you need to do other stuff.
Well, here's the thing, Brendan. Even though I'm young, my mum had a black and white TV, and that's what we had for a really long time. I'm a millennial, but we didn't get a color TV until probably until I was about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a black and white TV. It was like a yellow box sort of TV, and it was about that big, and everything was black and white.
So you see, I'm sorry, I'm listening to you, and I'm also looking at the thread because it's like busy. I'm going cross-eyed. But basically, there's this clip here that is not in the War Games, is it? It's the Sidrat in space. In the time vortex, or whatever you want to say it is.
Yeah.
And it'll be, as SG says here, the sound in the TARDIS is the same as the Sidrats in episode 10, which is not the usual sound. So we're tinkering again. Now, when you watched with your 2024 head on, Rachel, when you watched the War Games and did your 3-episode, 3-show review, were you saying to yourself, do you know what they need, what's missing is a Sidrat in the time vortex shot?
No, I never said that at all. In actual fact, I didn't think anything was missing. The biggest criticism that I had was that some of the pacing was off, and they needed to perhaps get rid of some of the capturing that was a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
You know, the capturing that doesn't have any significance, but I never thought that. That's really funny.
And that's what I mean. They're giving us stuff we don't ask for. And so then you think, well, if the Doctor Who fans aren't asking for it, a casual modern viewer, this mythical modern viewer, isn't asking for it either, are they?
And also, would they know what it is?
Well,
they wouldn't, would they?
I know, but this is the other thing. Things are left to imagination. What happened, Thread? That imagination was allowed. That things were left for you to work out, and it wasn't shown on screen. That has an amazing dramatic effect, doesn't it, Rachel? To not show everything.
Less is more.
Less is more.
And sometimes your imagination is more terrifying than what you get on a screen.
Well, my example that's come into my head is the Pyramids of Mars, the mummies killing the gamekeeper poacher. We never saw it, but God, it was horrifying. But only in our heads. We heard it, but we didn't see it.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Why do we need to see the Sidrat in the time vortex? Is it necessary? And you see, the other thing is, Rachel, RTD in his present mode, he's got a TARDIS that lands like a Starship Enterprise space shuttle in unit, doesn't he? Stark Tower. That hello baby and all the rest of it. That a TARDIS doesn't skiddle on the floor. The TARDIS doesn't fly like that. It dematerializes and then materializes. Yes, in the 70s and 60s, I think a bit, they show you it spinning like a little model. But remember with the first series with Chris Eccleston, we saw it kind of spinning along and then hit apparently by the Daleks torpedo. RTD, bit by bit by bit, is completely changing what the time machine does.
It's almost gimmicky.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I think it's done become a bit gimmicky. I don't mind the spinning actually, really at all. I didn't mind that being added. Well, added from Classic Who, but I didn't mind it being in New Who as well. So, but there is like a limit to how far you can actually take it. I mean, that skidding into unit, why? It's not needed.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. You add the cloister bell, possibly. You add certain TARDIS sounds that aren't linked here. You add on a regeneration. You take loads of scenes out, and suddenly you've very much changed what Malcolm Hulke, and I'll name them. Let's be honest. These two writers, Terence Dicks and Malcolm Hulke, what they actually did. Now, I don't care that one story was a 6-episode and one was a 4-episode and one tanked, so they had to end up doing a 10-episode.
Yeah,
we all know
they were on a time crunch when they wrote this too.
Yeah, but what they crafted wasn't just let's glue more episodes together. It actually it is worth the sum of its parts, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean the stories that they ended up scrapping, what they came up with as a replacement is definitely worth it.
Very clever. I mean,
Very clever story. War Games is.
lastminute.com writing stuff
Mm,
like this. This is why, you respect writers like this. They actually
mm,
really bust a gut
yeah.
and actually came up with something amazing. Yes,
It's like, what do we know that works? What has happened in recent history that has affected the world that works? World War World War Two. Sorry,
mhm.
I completely forgot which war it was then. And then how can we put that all together and put the elements of space and time within it?
Yeah,
And that's very difficult to craft into a 10-part story, but they did it, and they
they
didn't
did
have
it.
much time to do it. And yes,
No.
it was political. Yes, it was heavy on the war. Obviously, it's the war games, it's going to be, but it's a very well crafted story indeed.
So as we've gone through this list, I've just started to mention the writers, disrespecting the writers, possibly. I personally think it does because
Mm,
it's changing so much of what they were trying to do. And
yeah.
we're all suspecting which war zones have been butchered and really clipped. Um, you lose that essence of the adventure yarn. Um, I mean, it makes me think, Rachel. I mean, if they were showing those Buck Rogers, Flash Gordons from the 1930s that I used to see as a kid, showing on summer mornings, what? Let's update every effect. Let's colorize it. Let's add new scenes. Let's make the marsh people. Not the marsh people. I'm thinking full circle. The
Yeah.
clay people. Let's make them all different. Leave it alone. I tell you what, if a casual viewer can't cope with something made in the 1930s, there's something wrong. Should we make that movie, Metropolis, the famous one? Should we actually remake Metropolis?
If you want to do it.
Yeah, and completely ignore the original. Let's actually, should we remake Alien, Ridley Scott's masterpiece, and actually just add some new effects because we've got them? No. Why is
Why?
Doctor Who allowing this?
You can imagine the fallout in other fandoms if you were to actually do that.
You see,
This is why just recently they've announced that there's going to be a new Harry Potter, but they're going to do it
yeah.
as a TV series. Good idea, because they'll take away from the original films if they remade the
You
films.
see, there's skin in the game here, isn't it? Because we know that the three original Star Wars movies, after a while, they added some special effects, didn't they? They
Yeah.
say to make it look a little bit better and all. And Doctor Who now does that with the Blu-rays. We add all these extra bits that people found problematic or needed a bit of enhancement or something. The trouble is, as I said earlier, that becomes the slippery slope that suddenly they then think, well, we can do that, and we can do that, and we can change that. And before you know it, it's as if everybody's got free creative license to completely change the show.
Mm,
And and I say no. Oh, hello. Oh, listen to me. I'm saying no. No, we've got to
yeah.
put a stop to this. Of course, everyone will say, well, yeah, but will you buy it? Will you watch it? I know that's the trouble. So we've got the idea that it introduces new elements, like the regeneration itself, maybe some noises, some things that weren't there, has a spinning Sidrat, all the rest of it. And of course, they said there's some footage, new footage.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if that's just to enhance one scene, but like I say, you're taking out hundreds of minutes, but you're going to add one little bit that was found on the floor. I mean, really? Canon busting? Well, as Randy said, it's up to us whether we decide it's canon or not. What do you think is I mean, is there a positive, Rachel, in this being done? Because Radio Times actually said if you gain one extra viewer, it's been worthwhile. I'm thinking, oh, really? One?
Oh, is it worthwhile? I don't know. I like, what exactly are they hoping to achieve from it?
Well, you see, but then that's and here's, I
It's
mean,
such a conundrum, isn't it?
we see, I'm obsessed with the logic, Rachel. If you grab these new couple of people to watch Doctor Who because of the war games in color, enhanced and edited, and new scenes and a completely different show, then when they go and watch anything else to do with Doctor Who, they'll go, oh, it's not like that. Unless, Rachel, the master plan of RTD is that everything in black and white will be RTD'd. And therefore,
that wouldn't surprise me.
Therefore, faster. Yeah. Everything has to be fast. I mean, I was saying that horrible verb, grooming, that he's been grooming Doctor Who fans for years, that Doctor Who in its present format has to be 45 minutes or not. It cannot be episodic, really, apart from some climax 2-episoder. And as you know, he can't do the second one very well. The Doctor Who is all about one single event. It's all about hyperbole. It's all about a reset button. It's all about the drama, darling, rather than the story. And in the end, he's groomed fans, modern fans, that Doctor Who is some different beast to the one you watched and reviewed on your channel, the War Games.
Yeah, it's going to be completely different. Sorry, I lost a bit of my thought there because someone tried phoning me. So
oh well, maybe they want you to dub over Zoe in the War Games. Maybe that's it.
My double.
But this is what I mean. You would you dare? I don't know. Would you dare?
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like I'd be stepping on Wendy's toes, and she's still with us, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to with her blessing, but only if I ever got it.
Yeah.
Which I probably wouldn't.
Well, Problem Bean says here, training people to have an even shorter attention span is not going to encourage people to watch the originals. Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless, Lee, the master plan, and I had it on screen when he said, my plan when I came back was to colorize black and white Doctor Who and enhance it. And enhance seems to be doing the hard work. Enhance as a verb here seems to be meaning change. Edit harshly so it's faster. Oh, you mean like New Who? New Who, which is Doctor Who Light. Instead of going, do you know what? Sometimes you can just watch. Come on, Doctor Who fans, you've done it. You know, one of those Sunday afternoons and you put on and you just watch the whole damn lot. I'm tempted tomorrow to watch Robots of Death all the way through. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Instead, he'd be going, no, it needs to be shorter, snappier, jazzier. That's in your head, RTD. But Doctor Who doesn't need to have the Jaguar effect on everything, if you don't mind. Can we please enjoy and go on the journey? Rachel, how many movies in Hollywood do 3 hours? You know, the big ones, you know, the trilogies of Lord of the Rings and everything. I can't cope. I can't cope with 3 hours. Pearl Harbor, loads of them.
The Return of the King was so long, they had to put an interval in it. You know, it's like that. It's one of those, you know, people can just sit and watch. People binge watch, you know.
People, yeah, exactly. And what's the philosophy behind binge watching? That you are sat there for a long time, and as you say, even 6-year-olds can do it.
Yeah, 6-year-olds can do it. So I think other people can do it.
So we've tried to cover quite a lot here. Let's just check we've covered every angle, Rachel, and it'll just see if you. So again, the modern audiences can't focus. I think that's an absolute fallacy. That this is butchery. That's my opinion. It's up to you whether you all agree with me. I do think it's butchery to take 250 minutes to 90, when the argument I have is that look at the movies out there now that are longer. I'm sorry. Is this amount of butchery needed? No. The only, as I said, the only argument I can accept is budget-wise. But then I flash up my argument and say, therefore, it's the wrong choice.
Oh, it's completely the wrong choice. I would never have chosen the War Games to colorize. And also, actually, if you think about it, like, I mean, we've still got Fraser Hines with us, and we've still got Wendy Padbury with us for now. Okay, but we don't have Patrick Troughton. I don't think we have Philip Maddock anymore. And
no.
I don't. Oh, who played the Warlord?
Meacher.
That's it. Yeah, we don't have him anymore.
No.
Like, have they ever considered that is potentially like dragging over the names of those who have passed away by doing that?
Well, it's like, well, to add to that, and good to see you, Boomer Doug. I just want to shout him out. He's one of our detoxers. Yeah, you've been dealing with other stuff, and we all wish you well, Boomer Doug, and thanks for joining in, even with your one eye. he
One
has
eye's
two,
better than
he
none.
has two eyes. He's just
Yeah.
but no, good to see you. But no, but my point was this, and Lee Smith on my Sunday show said it was my drop the mic moment, actually. And what it was, Rachel, was, we've talked about this in our Sunday shows.
Mm.
RTD doesn't like one word changed by an actor, does he?
He hates it. And quite a lot of directors are like that, and writers can be like that too.
So how galling or ironic, Rachel, that RTD will allow the butchering of somebody else's words.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what they're going to take out.
So
Really does.
well,
But yes, the
my only
butchering of someone
conclusion
else's
is that
work.
RTD thinks he's worthy of the position to change Terence Dix's, Robert Holmes's, and Malcolm Hulk's, and anybody else who gets in his way. Verity Lambert's, Innes Lloyd, William Hartnell's. The RTD can change other people's work, but nobody can change his. Whoa.
Ironic. Get me in the same room with him and I'll change it just to wind him up.
I'd just like him to explain that, that's not equality, because he's very progressive, darling, and inclusive and representation, darling. But don't you dare touch one word of his script. However, we'll change everybody else's and the whole history of Doctor Who. Because he thinks he's higher up.
I think that he probably thinks maybe he's the god of Doctor Who.
Oh,
now.
Don't start. He's the Sutek of Doctor Who, the toy maker.
The thing is, stroking, he's very used to having his ego stroked. Performers, people who work in the performance industry, we get our ego stroked all the time. It's nothing new. You get used to it. And you think you can do no wrong, but you can.
I think it gets to the hubris bit. You're in danger. You
Yeah,
are in
yeah. And
massive danger.
I think he's getting there. And with particularly with something like War Games. Something that was written in a very short space of time, but expertly written, very, very akin to the war movies that you were getting in that era as well. At least I think it was that era. It might have been a bit before that, but it had a certain style that's not really what I would. You wouldn't have really seen it all that much in Doctor Who at that point, So it was very different. Very different.
And Divan and Dragon, thank you. We are loving watching Brendan and Rachel. This is a great stream. Please give us a like. Give us a like.
Give us a like.
Subscribe. And also then straight after this, go to Rachel's, her review in 3 little shows of the War Games. Straight away. Away then. Up for that. Sunday at 6 o'clock, we're back on, and Rachel's back on as well.
I'll be back tomorrow.
But everybody, hopefully we've kind of discussed where we stand with this. We've considered it, we've compared it, and I can't see the logic. And that's the problem.
Can't see the logic either. I don't think it should be happening. If they are going to do it, they should be choosing a much shorter one, which they don't need to cut anything from. But of course, it's money, isn't it? So
it's money. But I was in the colourised Doctor Who camp. But then I saw the Daleks in colour, and then I thought, oh, God, be careful what you wish for.
And also, how did they get the permission for the War Games? Because surely there's some kind of copyright within that. Because they probably may very well have the permission from Terence Dix, but do they have it from Malcolm Holt? Because they are co-writers of it, aren't they?
Yeah, I know. We had Michael Herbert on, and he said that the estate of Malcolm Hulk's a bit problematic. As in it's a bit like the Pip and Jane Baker. It's not like no kids. It goes a bit further. But yeah, Terence Dix as well. I mean, and who has the final say? We all know that Steph Coburn has done an embargo on An Unearthly Child, but. So I understand that's the writer's son. but then what about if you're Verity Lambert? I mean, she rubber stamped her era. Innes Lloyd rubber stamped his era. I'm always fascinated by this copyright idea about what you can change without people's permission. But I can't imagine they've got people's permission to do this. Unless
Well,
they
no,
don't think
I can't imagine. I mean, because, without well, I don't know. Who was the producer? It was Innes Lloyd, wasn't it? Was
Mm,
it Innes Lloyd?
I think it was. Let me just. I've got it
Um,
here. You keep going, and I'll
yeah, so,
see
like,
what I've got.
you could
I
very well
remember.
have the permissions from Terence Dicks, but you may not have it from Malcolm Holt, particularly if his estate was problematic.
It's just I have a problem. It was Derek Show, and of course it
Uh,
was. They
okay.
teed up the exile thing for later on.
And do they have permission for Derek Show and genre?
Well, that's another estate.
I'm
It's
making
kind
up
of
my own words.
yeah, it's another estate. This is the problem. Um,
You see, this is why we've never seen return of the characters like the Rani because of the problems with Pip
yeah,
and Jane Baker's estate,
and
So
hallelujah, hallelujah that
mm,
that's happened. Sally, I'm always fair on sense for you. I didn't mind the Daleks in color. I just
mm,
hated the new soundtrack.
fair enough.
Yes, and to be quite honest, I'll show you a few examples of this. When I looked and trailed a few people on what they were saying on the butchery front, so this is not me and Rachel. On the butchery front, we have here Phoebe saying, "Great day for annoying people." Um, how much did you cut? And of course, we've gone into that in detail because some people are not happy with that. Still on that, the Who 87 says 4+ hours cut down to 1.5. I'm curious as to what got hacked out. But considering the treatment to the previous colour story, I'm wondering how much is going to be repeated. You see, that was the other thing, Rachel, you've saved yourself. The Daleks in colour actually does a reprise in it, as if you're so thick or you've got Alzheimer's in the middle of watching and it flashes back to an earlier scene. It's like,
Why
you've
do you do
butchered.
that?
Oh, no, they do. They go back to
Really?
remember this, remember this. So it's a bit like when
Uh,
you see the Star Beast and you have David Tennant stood there reminding people what the hell Doctor Who is and that Donna had this meta crisis.
hmm.
And he's stood in space, isn't he? You think, oh God, I hate
Yeah,
this.
the
It
fourth
happened.
wall breaking.
Yeah. Oh, we seem to do it all the time. But everybody seems to be saying whether they can cope with the colorization, it's the music.
They did a
Um,
reprise. I
yeah.
can't believe they did a reprise. It's not Midsummer Murders, for goodness sake.
Well, it's so complicated if you're thick, you see, Rachel.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And as I keep saying, science fiction people are hardly the dimmest people around. So basically, what the hell are you doing? Um, so we've got people. I collected all their opinions, and people are not happy. Although I am fair, Matthew Kirk says generally I prefer them edited as they're faster paced and
Mhm.
made to feel more contemporary and accessible to current viewers, as long as the originals remain available too. And you see, this is it,
Mm.
Matthew. You're saying what RTD is saying in the press release. The trouble is, the original will not be recognizable to the new one because it's not just about cutting scenes; they're adding new effects, new sounds, new dialogue. It's not the same. It's not
Oh,
like for like.
Lee Smith has said something really interesting. I bet any actors cut out families will be peed off.
Well,
But yeah, because they
too
won't get any
true.
royalty from it.
Yeah.
They won't
Well,
get anything from that. They may not even get anything from it anyway. Contracts were different back then, so
this is it, isn't it? Your
yeah.
family. I like to
Yeah,
sometimes imagine
stamp
you've
them
just
out
got a
too.
slight attachment to Doctor Who, just as a normal person. Say your granddad was in the war games. To imagine something like that. Your
Mm,
granddad or your grandma, and they had a part in it.
yeah.
And then, as they say, as Lee Smith says, the new version, which is heavily merchandised, takes your grandma, granddad out. And as you say, Rachel, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, really?
Well, for some actors, their main, they may be predominantly stage, but their main sort of claim to fame could be Doctor Who. And they didn't
Yeah.
mind. I mean, Colin Baker's a good example of that. He agreed to do his role of Commander Maxwell because he thought, well, I'll never get the chance to play the Doctor. Of course he did,
Yeah.
but he thought that he wasn't going to, which is why he did the Commander in the end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he does say that, doesn't he? Quite
Yeah.
rightly.
Yeah. So that he could do Doctor Who.
And again, good old JWC Reviews, who often joins us. Excellent news, a great story that will benefit from colorization. I just hope they don't mess with the original soundtrack. This is people's main concern, I find, actually. Never, well, the
Yeah.
editing, of course, the
I'd
butchering.
I'd I'd wonder what on earth they would do with the soundtrack. Like, what is it about the soundtrack that needs to be updated, you know?
Well, I mean, yeah. So, well, the other thing is drowning out. Now, there's two issues just to finish with, Rachel. One
Mm,
is some people say the colorization is one thing, but the color palette's wrong. The second thing is, so like I know you didn't see it, but I know you've seen the photographs that the Daleks in color, the cardigan of Barbara was pink when it wasn't in the, I mean, things like that. Are we just kind of now splitting hairs? But then the other thing is, which has been an allegation, a criticism made of New Who's first era of RTD. The Murray Gold. I love Murray Gold's music, was too loud. And
mm,
here Peter Byram says, looks amazing, but please don't drown it out with awful loud music. And the
mm,
Daleks in the middle did go a little bit like, forget whether the Daleks are chasing William Hartnell. Let's just have quite loud music. And
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't change it.
It doesn't need changing. No,
I,
I mean, if you really want to colorize it, then colorize it, but colorize all 10 episodes. Don't take anything out. And I say that as someone who thinks that it could do with being 8 episodes long originally, but because they had to fill 10, obviously they had no choice. But
Solid Acid said, I can't speak for actors or anything, but isn't it rebroadcasting things that actors get some royalties for? Partially basing this on the whole Likely Lads debacle between Rodney Bewes and James Bolam. I don't.
Yeah, royalties is a funny thing. Let me check to see what year they were introduced. I don't actually
Yeah.
know.
So I'll just quickly kind of peppers for. So Sunday we've got the usual news, debate topic, Rachel and others. The sense for you on a Sunday at 6 p.m. will always be there. As Stephen Braddock was saying here, it's bad enough now, but I never dreamed RTD would go so far as now to dump on all the classic. I know, Stephen, you see, with my reviews of Empire of Death, it was bad enough. That's why the Who puppets, look at them, they've turned to drink. I mean, one of them, he's paralytic. Look at him. The other one, she can't get enough of that whiskey.
1961 for mainstream, for the mainstream TV. Wait, where have I got? Yeah, mainstream television from 1961.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's not a new thing, but I bet you they've adapted it.
Oh yeah, it's been changed over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. Simon Anthony's just keeping us right on sound and music balance has nothing to do with the composer. Quite often it's a technical issue due to multi-channel sound. Yeah. It's just let's get it right. That's the issue.
Yes, please.
People didn't like it. And yes, if Mark Ayres ends up getting a hit and it's not his choice, that's not fair. Mark Ayres gets criticized for some music in the 88, 89 series, so this isn't anything new. Right. Okay. Well, Rachel, we need to kind of sort this out because tomorrow we're back on again. But you've got your own channel. If you can just give us a shout out.
Yes. My channel is Chat About It, Don't Shout About It. And I cover Doctor Who on a Sunday, but then I cover woke news and all sorts of other things on the other days. So if you just want to join for the Sunday, that's absolutely fine. I'm currently in the process of trying to move over to a new setup, so please bear with me. It might look a bit rubbish tomorrow, but it's okay. But yes, please do head on over. If you like variety, knock yourself out, go and watch it all if you want. And I have playlists specifically dedicated to Doctor Who, so you can go and binge watch those because I'm sure you can do it.
And as you may know, if you're new to us, Rachel's a regular panelist on here as well. But look, they don't want us to go. When you were a kid and you'd say to your parents, you'd come up with like, can I have supper now? And you tried to delay another 10 minutes before you went to bed. The Thread are doing the same to us, Rachel. Look, will RTD add women to the Doctor's new face selection?
Oh,
Paul, how
scandalous.
dare you? I was trying to get off this stream, and now you've got me triggered.
That's a daredevil move. That is. I think he might get some backlash if he did. But you've said he's been pretty clear. It's going from Troughton into Pertwee.
It says that, but it doesn't. You know, like the Timeless Children, you could have Troughton there, Pertwee there, and a gap in the middle for a second or two. We saw Rogue. Richard E. Grant appeared suddenly.
True.
And the Fugitive Doctor appeared.
True.
So they've got form. RP is also that other kid who doesn't want you to go to bed and wants to stay up. Will RTD be able to claim at least partial authorship for the edited colourised episodes?
Oh, that might be a question for Hugh. Hugh might understand more because that'll be legalities, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure how far. Phil Collinson's obviously got his authorship of this, keeping an overview, and obviously Benjamin Cook. I say RTD because he has the final say on everything. We know he does.
Although maybe in part because obviously anyone who does the animations are also credited as a separate team. So maybe, I don't know. Hugh will know more to that question, I think.
Yeah.
It's legalities more so.
So the little tinkers in our thread are trying to stay up a bit later. It's been quite funny doing it at a Saturday Doctor Who tea time.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. And we'll be doing it, like I said, again tomorrow night. But and final word there to Michael Q. I will not be surprised if always a twist. What did I say last week, Michael Q? I found that bit that was cut out, didn't I? I found it, and there was going to be a twist. There was going to be a song. Once Sutek had been killed, and there was going to be a song and dance. Well, I say song and dance. That's not with me. There was going to be the song again.
Why? Why?
Because darling, Doctor Who is now a spectacular musical thing. It's like Strictly Come Dancing in space, darling. That's RTD.
I love Jojo. Sorry.
He wants a different show, doesn't he?
Anyway,
thank you. Everybody, time for bed. I'm Zebedee now in Magic Roundabout. So, see you all tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Be there.
See you tomorrow, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Subscribe, see you tomorrow at 6, and beam straight into Rachel's channel.